Hello, friends. Welcome. I am so happy to be here with you today, and I am thrilled to introduce you to my dear friend Elisabeth, who's joining me for this interview. She is most definitely a favorite person of mine. I'll give you a little bit of background, and then we will dive right in because there is so much that I want to ask her. So Elisabeth is from the Finger Lakes region of New York, which is where I am as well. She lives with her husband and her young son and also an elderly dog. She does work as a home infusion pharmacist, and she's also certified as a Reiki master, an angel guide, and has a master's degree in metaphysics from the University of Sedona. She's currently taking part in this super exciting astrology apprenticeship. And she has been on this incredible spiritual journey since 2012 when she had an abrupt awakening, which I'm so excited for her to share with us. So her delight and creative outlet is to share that journey on her phenomenal Instagram page, Change for the New Earth. She also loves to hike, bike, write, and take photos of nature, all of which are reflected in her gorgeous feed. So she is, in her own words, so grateful to be incarnated here at this time so that she can serve and participate in Earth's great awakening. Elisabeth, welcome. I am so happy to have you here.
Well, again, thank you so much. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. So let's dive right in. I'm so curious for you to share with our friends watching what exactly the details were of your spiritual awakening and what that was all
Sure.
about.
Yes, it was definitely, probably the turning point of my life. I was at work. I worked with a woman who was into spirituality, and she recommended that I speak to this really incredible psychic that she knew. And I was at the time very skeptical, very asleep, I would say.
Okay.
But for some reason, I call it grace. I don't know why. My voice was like, just call this woman and it'll be fun. So she came to my house, and before, it was so funny, before she got there, I was like, gosh, I have a fever. I hope I'm not getting sick. And then she stayed for like 3 hours. She just blew open my mind that night. And I think that the fever was actually just the awakening. And then after that, it was just, every day since then has been just everything I can take in about the spiritual. And now, of course, we're into the Great Awakening. So I think it's all been leading up to that. I want to take part in any way that I can.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's so powerful. And isn't it amazing when we have those opportunities? It's like intuition kind of knocks a little bit, and we've got something that we can explore and maybe learn from, and there's a part of us that is hesitant or is, tempted to reject it, and we tune more, I think, into our heart and listen and say, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. And I love what you said, it's going to be fun. I think, for us to embrace things and just give them a try, knowing that this is going to be fun, regardless of what else happens, I'm going to have a good time here. And then I can take, whatever I learn, whatever comes up, I can take that and move forward from there. But I'll enjoy it at least. There's so much power and freedom in that.
Yes, and it's definitely taught me to listen to that voice. Now when I hear it, I'm like, what do you want me to do? I will do that.
I love that. What are you doing to stay tuned in to that voice? Because I think that it can be so easy for us to either miss it or override it and not pay attention to it. Do you do anything special to kind of stay tuned in to that voice?
Yeah, I'm a huge journaler, and that's how I tap into myself. Things kind of drop into my head sometimes, and then, like the University of Sedona, I was walking one day and I heard the word Sedona. And I was like, I don't know what that means. But then later that day, I think even maybe I ran into this advertisement for the University of Sedona. So, I just look for synchronicities after I hear the initial thought. And I also really deliberately take time to sit and journal and pay attention to my thoughts.
I love that. There's something I think almost magical that happens when we get still and tune inward and listen. And I think putting pen to paper can be so helpful in kind of capturing that, especially I think if we can learn or practice at least that just writing without filtering. So it's like a direct connection, whatever is coming into my mind, right, is coming right out onto the paper, and then going back and making sense and trying to figure out what here is meant for me right now.
It's so powerful. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So we're recording this in December of 2020. And as you mentioned, we're in this great awakening. What are you doing now to stay motivated and to stay present, to continue those things like journaling and being outside and taking care of yourself? What's keeping you kind of fueled and upbeat enough so that you can invest energy in those conscious actions?
Oh boy. I feel a little bit lost without them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's my love. I love to do them. It's my passion. So I don't think it's that hard to keep them up. I took a week off from everything about a month ago. I just felt called to do that. And after that week, it was so enlightening, because I felt really scattered and kind of away from myself. So it just really taught me the value of staying with the routine of the journaling and the connecting in. Anything I can do to connect in, just really showed how powerful that is. So just to stay connected to myself and balanced, I think, is my motivation to keep going. And I'm just excited to be part of it all. So.
I love that. That's such a great way to frame everything, right? It's, we're in this together, we're part of a collective, and it's impacting all of us. And so we can choose to embrace that and have such a, I think, more profound and probably more positive, even when things are difficult, experience, when we accept what is and again know that we are part of something larger. We're not on an island, we're not alone. It's everybody's experience, I think, is unique, but this isn't just happening to us as an individual. I love too that I love that you have found what works, right? I think so often we, do things or feel like we should do things because, oh, so-and-so recommended it, or all of my friends are doing it, or it's, popular in mainstream culture right now. And I think that we are all individual, although we're part of a collective. What works for one of us is going to be different than what works for another. So giving yourself the freedom and the flexibility to experiment and find those things that really fuel us. Because I think, to your point, then it doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like work. You don't need extra motivation to do it. The motivation is already built in. You love it, and you know that it serves you incredibly well. And that's all you need to keep up that intentional practice.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It took a little bit of experimenting to find what works for me. But and there are days where I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do my journaling exercise, but I keep that promise, and that's, I just feel the power of that,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
self-promise.
I love that. That's amazing. One of the things, friends, that Elisabeth and I were chatting about before we pressed record today was I am always so grateful when I see her posts on Instagram, because she has this brilliant way of explaining, especially from an energetic standpoint, what is happening, and giving us insight as to a way that we can make sense of what's happening. And Elisabeth, I'd love if you could share a little bit about what this awakening means, what is encompassed by it, like what's happening right now from an energetic standpoint.
Um, I think to me, it just is, I feel like there's energy coming in and more people are able to tap into it.
Mhm.
I think the meaning of the whole thing is to realize who and what we are, to not be looking to the external for our validation, but to be turning inward to our own love and power.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm a little into astrology. Well, I'm a lot into astrology right now, but I like the idea of the Gemini twins. You know, you're searching and searching for your lost twin, but the secret is that it's you. And I think that that's the awakening.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I think that searching for something outside of yourself, when everything you need to support you, to honor your highest self, to live your quote unquote best life, is already within you, right? And it's just a matter of figuring out the practices that bring you joy and that allow you to tune in and tap in and honor that and recognize that.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Tell us more about the course that you're taking right now, the apprenticeship.
Oh, it's with Sister Shanti, and she's taken on 12 apprentices. This is her first round. So we're, I guess, the first group, but it's been really life-changing. I was just a little into astrology before I started in, but it's another one of those little voice things, like this is something for you. And um, I'm really enjoying it. It's opened a lot of new perspectives for me, and I'm really excited to take it into um, some work of my own if I'm able to once it's over.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Can you share with us any of the perspectives or any of those kind of aha or light bulb moments that you've had during that experience?
Yes. Wow, there's a lot to choose from.
I
My
bet.
favorite, I think, is her North Node and South Node perspectives. The South Node is the nodes are points, like lunar points, in the ecliptic of the moon. Um, and in the moment that you're born, it's a kind of a snapshot of the energy of the I guess the universal energy of when you're born.
Yeah.
But anyway, my South Node is in the 12th house, which is kind of where I'm comfortable. That's like a Pisces energy, where I can get a little bit lost in thought, maybe a little lost in fantasy, and not doing as much as I could be to turn those thoughts into reality.
Mm-hmm.
And my North Node is more Virgo energy, which is hearing the message from source and then putting it into action. So just having the awareness of that being my life path, which is basically what I'm doing. It could use a little tweaking, but just that awareness itself, just the seeds of awareness are so important to have, because then you can see the patterns and start making changes as the patterns come up.
I
So
love
I think
that.
that was my favorite one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that for myself. I don't know what my north and south nodes are, so I'm curious to dive into that a little bit more. You bring up such a good point too about, once we have the awareness, once we, pause and are willing to learn, or again to tune in, coming up and being present with those other perspectives and that knowledge, it can be so helpful in helping us understand, what's happening for me, what's happening around me, and also what's happening within me. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
reason for this? And is it something that I can, augment and in the best way possible capitalize on? Or is it something that I'm called to consciously work on, so that it's not leading me in a way that maybe doesn't serve my highest self.
Yes. Yeah. Just there's so much I think that we do unconsciously, and the more we can bring it to our awareness to see where we're getting in our own way,
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
is the best service that we can do for ourselves.
Oh, yes, I absolutely resonate with that so deeply. I think it's so easy for us to get into habits and to just go through the motions, and then we find
Yes.
ourselves stuck, and we find ourselves having like the same experience over and over again, and it's like the universe tapping us again and again and saying, there's a reason this keeps happening for you. What's the lesson we can learn?
Yes, absolutely. That's another thing about the astrology that I'm enjoying, is learning the lesson of each house. Each house has a
Cool.
lesson, and then once you sort of know what the lessons are, wow, that's a huge awareness as well.
Right, right. Oh, that's so cool. Are you finding that there are particular actions or rituals that you're drawn to that help you with that awareness and mindfulness piece? I mean, certainly the daily journaling is going to be a huge help with that. And is there anything else that allows you to kind of stay in the present moment to honor that mindfulness and awareness piece?
Well, I do the future self journaling as well, that the holistic psychologist, she recommends. I use her template, and I've actually, she recommends doing one topic per month, and I've just been doing presence, 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 following her lead question, and just trying to be extra mindful of it throughout the day, and
Mm-hmm.
congratulating myself when I catch myself being present. Like, oh, you're doing it.
I love that. There is something so amazing, and I think we forget that part of it, the celebration part and the acknowledgement part, that yes, you're doing it. Change can be tough. So we
It
can be
is.
our own
Yeah.
cheerleader there and congratulate ourselves and recognize, it's another piece of that awareness puzzle, but to recognize, yes, I'm doing it. This is it.
Even if it's only once. Oh, you remembered once today.
Right.
Good job.
Right. Right. Letting it be exciting and letting it be a big deal.
And I think we need to give ourselves a break too, especially when I think that your audience is busy women. When we're busy, we have to give ourselves a break. We're trying to do a lot.
Yes.
So remembering to be present while you're at work and dealing with the children and
Mm-hmm.
everything else I think that's an accomplishment.
It is. It is. Absolutely. I think we it can be easy for us to discount things that we do regularly, or things even that come, naturally to us. Oh, that's easy, or oh, I do that all the time. When in fact, that is a big deal. You're showing up in a way, and that not everyone could do that. Not everyone is doing that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I'm so curious. I know I mentioned this when you emailed me your bio. I said, I feel like we could spend the whole interview just going through all the pieces of your bio. I found them so interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about your metaphysics master's degree from the University of Sedona? I'm so curious about what that encompasses and what kind of that gave you the freedom and the knowledge to kind of move forward with once you had that information.
Sure. Like I said, I had the word Sedona fall into my head at the right time, and then I came across this university. It was online, so it was all online work. It was a lot about meditation and affirmations, and I actually had to undo a little bit of the work that it was good for me at the time about positive thinking. But it was a little bit more geared towards eliminating all negative thoughts, which isn't so good after all. I mean, you have to listen to your shadow, certainly, but it really opened my eyes to how we're the creators of our experience and how to create your own experience and how powerful we all are.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really wonderful experience.
I love that. And I want to touch on two things. First, that difference between, crowding out all of the negative and not acknowledging any of that, and, kind of like overriding it with the positive. Because I have gone through trainings where there is that similar approach, that it's got to be all positive. And just like you at the time, that served me really well. And then afterwards, I found myself not necessarily avoiding the negative feelings, but not like acknowledging them or processing them at all. Do you
Yeah.
have any suggestions as to how to kind of create harmony between both the positive and the negative?
Mm. Okay, so yes, suggestions about how to balance the negative and the positive.
Yeah.
I've gotten really deep into shadow work, and the way I visualize it is speaking to myself as a child. So the child is the one that has the fears, maybe the negative comments, some emotions that don't feel good. So I feel like I'm just parenting my own self.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll take out my journal and just say, tell me everything that you need to tell me. What is wrong? And I allow that process until, just writing and writing and writing until it's exhausted. And then taking that apart and saying, well, this is how we can fix this. This is what we're going to do about that. And then if there's a feeling, I sit with the feeling and feel it
Mm-hmm.
until I don't feel it anymore. And then I do that until that inner child feels calm and secure.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful. And that's such a that's such a helpful way, I think, to process feelings and emotions and even thoughts and beliefs that are not kind of rainbows and butterflies, right? That come up for us that maybe aren't as pleasant or aren't as enjoyable, but to your point, are part of us. It might be our shadow side, but still a part of us. And, you know, tuning in and treating ourselves like a child, you know, in the role of that, as a loving parent. I think that's remarkable and so powerful to help process that, right? There's absolutely a place, I think, for affirmations and for positive thoughts and for, you know, cultivating that positive experience. But when the negative comes up, it is helpful to take some time to explore it, not to get stuck in it, not to, you know, have that be our center, right? But instead to explore it and be curious about it and to help heal it too, right? I mean, that ritual that you described is so healing.
I think it's really important too to be prompt about it. You know, if you can't sit down in the moment to say, listen, self, when we get home, we're going to sit and we're going to figure this out.
Right.
Don't worry.
Right.
And then the positive affirmations can come out.
Right.
And I also think sometimes some things are too big for the self, and I have this really amazing therapist. So when I get really turned around, I never thought I needed a therapist until I had one, and it's incredible for when you get really stuck.
Yeah, that support system is invaluable. I think someone who can hold space for you and who can, you know, ask you questions and help you explore, you know, areas that maybe you didn't even think of that, you know,
Yeah,
as you being
exactly.
in it, right, day to day,
Right, right.
can be hard to recognize. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you mentioned too, when you were describing your education, you mentioned that we have the power to create our own reality. And for years, I think I didn't realize that. And I remember for me, when I started to do some work and started to really dive into that was such an eye opener for me. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have all the power I need. Like, you know, I have control really over so much more than I thought. And I'd love your insight on, you know, more of that power. How do we create our own reality? Where does that power lie for us?
For me, I think it's words and thoughts. I
Mm-hmm.
think your words are magic. um,
Totally agree.
but I guess I could just end it there. I mean, just being really deliberate with what you're saying, and then your words come from your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So becoming very aware of what's going on in your mind. I remember before, in the process of becoming more aware and waking up more, I would find myself just in these scenarios that were completely imaginary. And then once I had an awareness of that, like, wow, there's a lot going on in my thoughts that I wasn't really aware of. And just bringing an awareness of that. And then when these scenarios that aren't so great pop up, just saying we're not going to go there, and just not going into those thoughts.
Right. It's
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and sorry, and then just focusing on what I want
Yes.
from what I'd like to see, and bringing those thoughts in through my words and my actions.
That's so powerful. I think, you know, we think so many thoughts every day, but the number of thoughts that we actually engage in and kind of chase and hold on to is relatively small in comparison, I think, to the number of thoughts we have overall. And that goes back, I think, to the choice, right? There's a mindfulness aspect that allows us to tune in and be aware of what we're thinking and then make a conscious choice, you know, to your point, I'm not going to go there, or I am going to go there. Here's the
Right.
direction that
Yes.
I'm going to take. Right. Yeah. And
Yes.
it's a balancing act, isn't it? I mean, it goes back to that idea of the positive and the negative, and,
Mhm.
making the conscious choice of which thoughts to engage with, and making the conscious choice of, this is one that needs to be explored. Maybe, this is one that I notice is on that loop or is on repeat. So this is
Yes.
one where maybe I
Yes.
need to, nurture my inner child, or talk with my therapist about, because this one keeps coming up, and I, can't seem to either process it on my own, or override it when it just is like a nagging, insignificant thought, but one that keeps coming up.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Resonate with that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Elisabeth, I'm so grateful for all of the insight you shared today. Friends, I hope that you take to heart Elisabeth's wisdom. I know that anytime I read a post of hers on Instagram, my heart is just so full. It always seems to be exactly what I need to hear. And I love her suggestions about journaling. If you are not a journaler, I think there can be a lot of power in making a list if you're not, inclined to just write stream of consciousness. But getting it out of your head and onto paper is really powerful from a processing standpoint, from an acknowledgement standpoint. And I love too her insights about astrology and energy work, and how we really are the creators of our reality, and our thoughts, our words, our actions, that's all creating the reality that we're living. So we have so much more power. I think the more that we can learn about what's happening energetically, and Elisabeth is an incredible resource for that, the better equipped we are to handle what happens for us. Elisabeth, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to add? Anything that we didn't touch on that you were hoping to share or chat about?
I don't think so. I had a big message to talk about the inner child stuff, and it came out. So
Good.
I just want to say thank you. That was really beautiful. I love your questions. I love your work, and
Thank
I'm
you.
really grateful for this opportunity and all of the nice things that you've just said. Thank you
Well,
so
it's
much.
all true. You are
Really just
so
makes
welcome.
my heart so
Oh,
happy.
from my
Thank
heart to
you.
yours, so much love and light. Friends, connect with Elisabeth on Instagram. You can find her at Change for the New Earth. Her feed is beautiful and inspiring and educational, and will help you just show up as your highest self. It's such a gift. Um, Elisabeth, thank you again. I'm so grateful for you, and so grateful for you taking time to share with us today. And friends watching, sending you so much love and light as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Meg, very much.
My pleasure.